Every April and May, the bourbon industry does the same thing. They drop the releases they spent all year building hype around. The limited editions, the commemoratives, the prestige expressions. And they count on one thing above everything else. That you haven't done the math. I talked to 11 liquor store owners this month, not the chains. The independents, the stores that have been in the same family for 2 or 3 generations, the owners who order every major release, watch the price tags land, and hand bottles to buyers who have no idea what they're actually paying for. I asked all 11 the same question. Which of the new April and May 2026 releases are you genuinely embarrassed to sell at full price? Every single one of them had an immediate answer. The first bottle is one you already know. This channel named this brand as a dying brand last week, and in the same week that conversation was happening across the bourbon community, this brand dropped not 1 but 2 cask strength expressions, priced as though none of the credibility damage ever occurred. One store owner described it as a brand charging for a funeral while the body is still warm. 5 new releases that liquor store owners say only dumb people buy, and what they told me to buy instead. Before I name the second bottle, I want to tell you something one store owner said that reframes every release on this list. She said, "The April and May releases are the industry's biggest con of the year, not because the liquid is bad, because the prices get set in January when the hype is being built. And by the time the bottles actually land on shelves, the market has moved, but the price tag hasn't. You're paying for excitement that was manufactured 6 months ago. You're not paying for what's in the bottle." That's the system every release on this list operates inside, starting with number 5. Number 5. The first of those 2 Angel's Envy releases is the Angel's Envy 2026 Cask Strength Rye at $269. Let me tell you precisely what $269 buys you here. 111.6 proof, 10 years old. Port barrel finished. The same finishing story this brand has been telling since inception. The rye category at $269 in 2026 is extraordinarily competitive. Whistle Pig, 10-year at $70. Redemption Barrel Proof at under $50. High West Double Rye at $40. Every one of these bottles delivers genuine rye character at a fraction of what Angel's Envy is charging for a finishing story whose production integrity the brand's own co-founder acknowledged was under pressure following the Bacardi acquisition. At $269, you are paying for Lincoln Henderson's name on a bottle that the production process he designed is no longer fully delivering. The port finish is real. The 10-year age is real. The credibility of the brand that built this expression's reputation is the part that has quietly left the building. The store owner's recommendation: Whistle Pig 10-year rye at $70. A genuinely age-stated, genuinely complex rye from a distillery that has never asked you to pay for a reputation it doesn't still deserve. At $199 less than the Angel's Envy, you are getting more honest rye for a fraction of the mythology tax. Number 4. This is the release that made every store owner pause the longest. Not because they hesitated to put it on the list, because they were calculating how many cases they'd already ordered before they thought carefully about the math. A genuinely aged bourbon. A prestige price, a finishing story that involves 2 Italian wine appellations. On paper, this is exactly the kind of release that should command a premium. Complex production, distinctive wood influence, limited availability. The problem is the price tag arrived at a number that reflects the occasion of the release rather than the liquid inside it. This brand releases a new packed expression every year. Each one carries a different name, a different finishing story, a different reason to pay significantly more than the standard lineup. The release cycle itself has become the product. The annual ritual of a new pack number generates excitement and purchase intent independent of what's actually in the bottle that year. The 2026 release involves genuine Montepulciano and Sangiovese wine casks from Italy. That is a legitimately interesting and unusual production choice. At 98.6 proof, the liquid is not watered down. The production integrity is real. A store owner who stocks this brand's entire lineup said this: "I love this distillery. I genuinely believe they make some of the most interesting bourbon available. And I think pack number 12 at $130 is priced for the occasion rather than the liquid. The wine cask finishing is real and interesting, but you are paying $50 to $60 in annual event tax on top of what this liquid would justify in a non-packed context. The number 12 is doing pricing work that the bourbon cannot do on its own." Here's the specific line that stopped me. He said, "Every year I watch customers buy a number, not a bourbon. Pack number 11 tasted like pack number 11. Pack number 12 will taste like pack number 12. What they all taste like is $60 of occasion tax sitting on top of a $70 bourbon. That bottle is Blood Oath, packed number 12, finished in Montepulciano and Sangiovese casks at $130. The store owner's recommendation, Rabbit Hole Distillery, Race King at $95. Also on the April release calendar, 95 proof, 6 years old from one of the most thoughtfully run distilleries in Kentucky. At $35 less than Blood Oath, you get a bottle from a producer with genuine production transparency, a real age statement, and no annual event tax inflating the price. Number 3, this is the one that generated the most uniform reaction from every store owner I spoke to. Not anger, not irritation, laughter, the specific kind of laughter that comes from watching the same situation repeat itself year after year and realizing that the people buying these bottles will never do the math. A genuinely old bourbon, 22 years in Kentucky barrels. That is real. That is a genuine production achievement and a genuine cost that justifies a premium price. Nobody reasonable disputes that 22-year-old bourbon costs significantly more to produce than 10-year-old bourbon. What reasonable people dispute is charging $1,100 for a 22-year bourbon bottled at 92 proof. 92 proof is the legal minimum for straight bourbon, not 93, not 95. The floor, the lowest possible alcohol content that allows the liquid to legally carry the straight bourbon designation. What 92 proof means at a practical level is that somewhere in the production process, after 22 years of patient aging in Kentucky oak, after the barrel contributed everything it had to the spirit inside it, a deliberate decision was made to add water until the minimum was reached. 2 decades of patience reduced to the legal floor is not a quality choice, it is a yield choice. More bottles per barrel, more revenue per barrel, less bourbon per dollar for the buyer. At $1,100, you are paying for a bottle that contains the minimum legal concentration of age spirit that 22 years of production can deliver. One store owner in Kentucky put it simply, this is what $1,100 of optics looks like. A 22-year age statement on the label, a 92 proof reality in the glass. Serious buyers know what 92 proof means on a bottle this expensive. The people buying this are not buying with their palate, they're buying with their ego. That bottle is Blade & Bow 22-year Kentucky straight bourbon at $1,100. The store owner's recommendation, William LaRue, Weller, when available, or at the $1,100 price point. Any serious retailer can source genuinely rare, high-proof, age-stated bourbon that doesn't compromise on proof to achieve its age statement. The age on Blade & Bow is real. The value is not. If this is landing differently than you expected, if you're realizing that the releases you've been most excited about this spring are the ones the people selling them are most embarrassed to stock, subscribe now, because the follow-up to this video names the 5 May 2026 releases that liquor store owners are quietly buying for themselves before the public allocation arrives. That video will save you money every single time you open a new release calendar. Drop it in a few days, don't miss it. Number 2, this one surprised me because it comes from a brand that the channel's audience genuinely respects, a distillery with an earned reputation for honest production and price points that have historically reflected what was in the bottle rather than what was on the label. The 2026 release breaks that pattern in one specific and nameable way. This is a commemorative bottle. The liquid is genuinely excellent. 114 proof, which is an honest production decision. The Texas heritage story is real. The craftsmanship is real. The price is $180, and the price is where the problem lives. A store owner in Nashville said, "I sell this bottle every year to the same type of customer. None of them are serious bourbon drinkers. They are people who want to give a gift that costs $180 and looks like it costs $180. I have sold dozens of units of this. I have recommended it to exactly 0 serious bourbon buyers, not because the liquid isn't good, because the math doesn't work when the same calendar has a 108 proof Heaven Hill expression at $37. That bottle is Garrison Brothers Lady Bird Bourbon 2026 at $180. The store owner's recommendation, unanimous across all 11 conversations. Elijah Craig 2026 PGA Championship commemorative small batch at $37. 108 proof Heaven Hill production, an honest commemorative commemorative at an honest price. One owner's exact words: "If Garrison Brothers cost $37 and the Elijah Craig PGA cost $180, serious buyers would still choose the Elijah Craig. The price tag doesn't change what 108 proof Heaven Hill production quality delivers in the glass." Number 1. The release that generated the strongest and most immediate reaction from every store owner on the list. Not the most expensive, the one where the gap between what the brand is charging and what the brand currently deserves to charge is widest. You already know this brand from number 5. The credibility problem is the same. The production pressure is the same. The post-acquisition scaling is the same. What's different at number 1 is the price. If $269 for a port-finished rye from a brand in documented credibility decline is audacious, then releasing a cask strength bourbon from the same brand in the same month at $249 is the complete picture of what happens when a corporation decides that brand equity can be converted into margin indefinitely without consequence. This is the Angel's Envy 2026 Cask Strength Bourbon at $249, 117.8 proof, 10 years old, port barrel finished. The same story, the same wood, the same finishing process that Lincoln Henderson designed and that the brand has been delivering with progressively less consistency since his passing and the Bacardi acquisition that followed. Let me put this in the plainest possible terms. This channel named Angel's Envy a dead brand last week. The bourbon community overwhelmingly agreed, the evidence was specific, documented, and publicly available. And in the same release window, the brand dropped a $249 cask strength bourbon and a $269 cask strength rye, a combined $518 ask from a brand whose own co-founder acknowledged on record that scaling was compromising the finishing process that justified every dollar of their premium. That is not a brand defending its position. That is a brand liquidating its remaining credibility before the market finishes making its verdict. One store owner said, "I will sell every bottle of both of these releases, not to my serious customers, to the people who haven't heard the news yet, the people who still see the Angel's Envy label and think they're buying Lincoln Henderson's legacy. They're not. They're buying what Bacardi has been doing with Lincoln Henderson's legacy since 2015. At $249, that is an exceptionally expensive lesson." The store owner's recommendation, the bottle that came up in every single conversation as the honest cask strength alternative. Elijah Craig, barrel proof at $60 to $70 depending on your market. Genuinely cask strength, genuinely consistent. Produced by Heaven Hill, the same parent company behind every recommendation made in this video. And a brand that has never asked you to pay for a reputation it doesn't still deserve in full. So what is the pattern? 5 releases, 5 different brands, 5 different price points, 1 identical mechanism. Every bottle on this list is priced for something other than what is in the glass. The Angel's Envy releases are priced for a legacy that the production record is quietly dismantling. The Blade and Bow is priced for an age statement that the proof undermines. The Blood Oath is priced for the annual ritual of a new pack number. The Garrison Brothers is priced for a Texas story that a $37 bottle from the same calendar renders irrelevant. And every store owner I spoke to said the same thing in different words. The most expensive decision a bourbon buyer makes is not the $1,100 bottle. It is the habit of paying for the story instead of the bourbon. Once someone learns to pay for the story, they pay for it every release cycle, every year, for the rest of their bourbon life. The releases that deserve your money on this calendar are right there on the same list. The Elijah Craig PGA Championship at $37 and 108 proof. The Evan Williams Single Barrel 250th Commemorative at $45 and 117 proof, 7 to 8 years old. A genuine age statement at a price that reflects it honestly. The Abraham Bowman Limited Edition Special Release at $80 and 110 proof for a genuinely aged 11-year expression. All 3 are on the same calendar as the 5 releases on this list. All 3 cost less. All 3 deliver more honestly against what they charge. None of them are getting the column inches or the Instagram coverage that the $249 and $269 Angel's Envy releases are generating right now. That gap between what gets attention and what deserves your money is exactly what this channel exists to close. Stop paying for the story. Start paying for the bourbon. Next video. The 5 May 2026 releases that liquor store owners are buying for themselves before the public allocation hits. Not the bottles they're paid to recommend. The ones they actually want. Dropping in a few days. Subscribe now so the algorithm shows it to you when it does. This is Cask Index. We'll see you in the next one.